Dimension 35C is collapsing into kaleidoscopic shards of time. Swarms of grotesque monsters from infinite universes are pouring through portal rifts. And at the eye of the storm stands Rick Sanchez, belching, bored. This is Rick at 100%? Sound impossible? Good. Now here's the mind blower. Even at 1% power, Rick Sanchez is already the most dangerous man in the multiverse. Strap in, we're about to crank our Rick power meter from a paltry 1% all the way to infinity, and it's gonna get swifty. Rick at 1% is your slob of a grandpa puttering in the garage. If your grandpa could MacGyver a quantum battery out of paper clips and pickle juice while hung over. Morning after morning, we've seen Rick stumble out with vomit on his lab coat and still crank out tech miracles before his first cup of coffee. Remember when Jerry asked Rick to make their dog a little smarter? Rick shrugged, slapped together a goofy helmet in 10 seconds flat, and accidentally gave Snuffles an IQ higher than Stephen Hawking. By dinner, that dog had built an army of mech-suited canines and nearly enslaved humanity, all because Rick was bored at breakfast. 1% power, and he's already creating new species between shots of bourbon. Wubba lubba what? Even at minimal effort, Rick treats the laws of physics like his personal playthings. He cobbled together his space cruiser out of garage junk, literally an ovni made from spare parts, yet it zips across galaxies on a whim.
What do you think of this flying vehicle, Marty? I built it out of stuff I found in the garage.
Yeah, Rick, it's great.
The windshield is a repurposed car hood, the engine runs on microverse batteries, we'll get to that insanity, and the seatbelts are optional. This hunk of junk outruns Galactic Federation ships daily. Rick's DIY spaceship makes NASA look like kids flapping cardboard rockets. And he built it in his free time, probably while half drunk on toilet wine. At 1%, Rick's idea of problem solving is over-solving. He'll jury-rig a neutrino bomb as a reset button. Yes, he almost blew up Earth in the pilot because he had a hangover.
I had to make a bomb, Morty. I had to create a bomb.
What? A bomb?
I'm gonna drop it down there and get a whole fresh start.
Missing batteries for the remote. No sweat, he can pop open a mini wormhole to siphon electrons from a parallel universe's grid. This man's throwaway Sunday projects, translating squirrels' conversations, inventing a meeseeks box that conjures helpful demons, cloning a murderous Mr. Poopy Butthole for target practice would each be Nobel Prize winning breakthroughs for anyone else. For Rick, it's just a lazy afternoon. And here's the scary part, he's barely trying. If a barely conscious garage puttering Rick can create sentient dogs and pocket universes on a whim, what happens when he ramps it up? Hold my portal gun, we're about to find out. Even at his laziest, Rick's a god in the garage. Up next, what 25% looks like when he actually gets off the couch. Rick at 25% power treats the multiverse like his personal playground. With his iconic portal gun in hand, he can hop between realities faster than you flip TV channels. Bored on a Tuesday? Rick might poke a green portal in the kitchen and step out on a beach planet where the sand sings show tunes. Need a quick snack? He'll portal into an alien deli, grab a Glorzo sandwich, and be back before the microwave ding. At quarter power, Rick's not just traveling between dimensions, he's toying with them. Case in point, when some poor galactic goons trapped Rick and Morty in a virtual reality simulator. Remember the Zagarians and their tacky video game world? Rick realized the con in minutes. He cranked up a fake formula for concentrated dark matter, then sat back as his code detonated their entire mothership just for laughs. Boom, simulation shatters, aliens vaporized, and Rick's left cackling. That's the way the news goes. All that from a guy who was only kind of paying attention. 25% Rick still has brain power to burn. Even for fun, Rick's mid-tier antics are wildly overkill. When a giant telepathic head, the Cromulon, demanded a musical performance to save Earth, Rick didn't sweat. He dropped a funky impromptu song, Get Swifty, so fire it appeased a planet-sized godhead. No manager, no rehearsal, just Rick's chaotic confidence turning an American Idol moment into an extraterrestrial talent show victory. And when the elite superhero team The Vindicators invited Rick to fight their arch nemesis World Ender, our guy got so drunk he blacked out. Sounds like a handicap, right? Nope. Blacked out Rick somehow killed the supervillain off screen and rigged the Vindicator's lair with Saw-style death traps, all as a twisted lesson about how much they sucked. Imagine waking up hungover to realize you effortlessly defeated an Avengers level threat during your blackout. That's 25% Rick for you, world saving and world breaking as a party trick. Morty's usual reaction around now? Pure freaking panic. Picture Morty clinging to Rick's lab coat as they hurtle through a chaotic alien city Rick casually set on fire to sneak out quietly. Morty, panicked. Aw geez, Rick, was the whole blowing up the galactic government thing really necessary? Rick, shrugging. Necessary? No? Fun, yes. Morty. That actually happened in the Rickshank Rickdemption. Rick turned a Galactic Federation prison break into an intergalactic economic meltdown. How? By hacking a Galactic Federation computer and changing their currency value from 1 to 0. One line of code and poof, he crashes an empire's entire economy for the lulz. At 25-30%, Rick Sanchez is rewriting galactic laws and day drinking while doing it. And we're only halfway up the dial. Ready to see Rick at 50%? Grab your portal goggles, it's about to get interdimensional. Rick's shenanigans have already toppled governments at quarter power, but he's just warming up. Next stop, 50%, where things get really squanchy. At 50% power, Rick Sanchez stops goofing around and starts breaking reality on purpose. This is mid-level Rick, half of his potential and already godlike. By now, he's dismantled entire governments before breakfast. Need proof? Recall that glorious Season 3 opener, the Rickshank Rickdemption. Rick escaped a maximum security Galactic Federation prison using nothing but his mouth and a stolen brain uplink. He inception hopped through bodies, agent to alien to another Rick, like it was a casual game of musical chairs. Then he teleported the Council of Rick's whole citadel into the Federation's headquarters, basically slamming two enemy armies together and let them annihilate each other while he went to grab a beer. Oh, and as a final screw you, he hacked the Federation's central computer and reduced their interstellar currency to worthless zeros, collapsing their economy overnight. Earth's alien conquerors literally packed up and fled because Rick made money a joke. Talk about power moves. The man ended an empire with keyboard clicks and a catchphrase. Rick, burping. Whole galaxy's collapsing, Morty. I'm gonna go get that McNugget Zequan sauce. Savage. At 50%, Rick's exploits start blurring the line between genius and insanity. This is the point where he's rewriting the very code of the universe for giggles. He created a microverse battery, translation, an entire pocket universe enslaved to run his car, like it was a household DIY project. Who else but Rick invents a universe as a Duracell just so he doesn't have to go to Space Costco for a new battery? The civilizations inside worship him as a god, not realizing their whole existence is an AA battery in Rick's garage. That's 50% Rick, casually committing cosmic slavery in the name of convenience. We're dealing with a man who plays SimCity with actual cities. And if you piss him off? Oh boy, by now Rick has fought and massacred entire squads of his own alternate selves. In one standoff at the Citadel, a dozen Ricks aimed portal guns at our Rick. Did he surrender? Ha! He mowed them down without blinking. When one remaining council member grabbed Summer as a hostage, Rick rolled his eyes at the cliche. Council Rick, panicking. That's enough! We have infinite grandkids. You're trying to use Disney bucks at a Caesar's palace here. It's a bluff. In other words, in an infinite multiverse, a single life means squat. Rick knows it and proves it. He was fully ready to sacrifice Summer if it meant taking out that last Rick. He had a plan, of course, a fake gun Morty used to disrupt the standoff, but the fact remains, 50% Rick would gamble his own grandkid's life to win a fight. With a nihilistic one-liner and a portal trick, Rick blew that traitorous council member to atoms, rescued Summer, and pieced out like it was just another Monday. Morty understandably nearly had a heart attack. Who's the bigger threat to Rick Sanchez than Rick himself? Nobody, at least not until we hit the upper power levels. Because if you think a half-power Rick is OP, wait until you see him at 69%. Yes, 69. Nice. And also, apocalyptic. Rick at 50% has already crushed empires and outplayed infinite versions of himself. But he's about to nice his way to an accidental Armageddon. You knew we had to stop at 69%, and trust me, it's anything but nice. At roughly 2/3 power, Rick's shenanigans escalate from intentional chaos to oops, I accidentally Cronenberged an entire planet. Let's talk about the infamous love potion incident from Rick Potion number 9. Rick tried helping Morty score a date by brewing a simple love serum. Cute, right? Except he failed to account for a flu virus going around. One DNA tweak led to another, and before they knew it, the entire human race mutated into grotesque Cronenberg monsters lusting to devour Morty. We're talking praying mantis people, blob creatures, full-on horror show. The entire Earth turned into a David Cronenberg film because Rick was a little sloppy in the lab. Morty's screaming, "You turned everyone into monsters, Rick." And Rick's basically like, "Meh, your idea was dumb anyway. My bad, I guess." Morty's family, friends, Jessica, everyone transformed into writhing freaks overnight. Rick at 69% is so powerful he can end civilization by accident. That's not a flex, that's a nightmare. How does Rick handle this self-made apocalypse? In true Rick fashion, he bails. Seriously, his solution to 7+ billion Cronenberged humans was to grab Morty and portal out to a fresh dimension, one where they died in a totally unrelated mishap, and simply take their own places. He literally skipped to a parallel universe and buried his own corpse in the backyard, all to avoid cleaning up the mess he made. If that doesn't scream unchecked power, what does? Rick Sanchez solves problems by abandoning entire realities to rot. As he nonchalantly tells Morty, "There's an infinite number of realities, Morty, and in a few dozen of them, I got it right. Now help me shovel our dead bodies. There's a 9 a.m. sale at Blips and Chits." Morty, traumatized. I have to bury myself. Oh God. It's one of the most brutal scenes in the show. Rick, of course, barely bats an eye. Cronenberg world becomes yesterday's news. By 69%, Rick's power is so excessive it warps his sense of responsibility, which was never high to begin with. He accidentally creates global catastrophes and then treats them like spilled milk. Just portal to a new kitchen and pour another bowl of cereal. The scary implication, Rick's only human limitation is his interest level. At this stage, he's not straining himself at all. If anything, his biggest enemy is boredom. And bored Rick is dangerous. The moment he starts saying, "I wonder what'll happen if you'd better duck and cover." He might Cronenberg the planet, or turn the sun into ice cream, or clone 100 Hitler Mortys by pressing the wrong button. And we're still not even in the 90th percentile. Buckle up, it's time to breach the stratosphere of Rick's power meter, where even the show's craziest stunts start to look quaint. Rick at 69% wrecked an Earth by accident. So what horrors await when he's actually trying at 99%? Now we're in final boss territory. 99% Rick. This is Rick pushing the absolute limits of his intellect, tech, and sheer audacity, just shy of godhood. At 99%, Rick Sanchez has essentially no equal in the known multiverse. The proof? He's defeated every conceivable rival, including ones wearing his own face. The Council of Ricks tried to contain him. He dismantled them. Galactic dictators hunted him. He turned their armies to ash. Hell, even evil Morty, that diabolical little chess master, only survived by escaping to an alternate reality beyond Rick's reach. Rick C-137 is the unchallenged champion of the finite multiverse. And when he goes 99%, he's not holding back any tricks or morals. It's pure, unfiltered Rick. Picture the most epic confrontation you can imagine. Rick versus an entire citadel of his copies, all armed to the teeth. We saw a glimpse of this when Rick stormed the Citadel's council chamber in a one-man assault. He took out most of the council in seconds, outsmarting and outgunning Ricks, who by definition are as smart as he is. How? Because Rick at 99% has something even other Ricks lack, an almost nihilistic will to win. He doesn't just outscience you, he convinces you resistance is pointless. Remember when one council Rick held Summer hostage? C-137 basically sneered, "I got infinite grandkids, pal. Your move." That existential flex, "Your leverage means nothing because nothing means anything to me," is Rick's real superpower. One existential one-liner and the council realized they'd already lost. Rick then pulled off a classic double cross. Morty shooting him was part of the plan, of course, and in the blink of an eye, the last council member caught a laser to the forehead. Game over. Rick didn't just win, he made it look meaningless. That's 99% Rick. Victory not just through firepower, but through a level of mind game that borders on cosmic horror. By this stage, Rick's basically a force of nature. He can swap bodies, rewrite minds, erase memories, collapse dimensions, weaponize entire planets. He's evolved countermeasures for death itself. We've seen his endless clone backups and universe-hopping consciousness. Honestly, 99% Rick is nearly unstoppable. So why not 100%? What could possibly be beyond what we've seen? Only one thing, Rick Prime. That's right, Rick's ultimate foe is the one enemy he's still hunting, the mysterious Rick who killed our Rick's family. Imagine Rick finally catching up to Rick Prime, cranking his own genius to the theoretical max. That's our 100% scenario, and it's pure, unadulterated nightmare fuel with a dash of anime flair. The 99% Rick has crushed all rivals except one. Next, the final showdown, 100% Rick versus Rick Prime. Buckle up for the unimaginable. This is it. 100% Rick, a theoretical limit breaker that even the show hasn't fully depicted yet. But let's push the portal door wide open and imagine the carnage. Rick Prime versus Rick C-137, the long-awaited grudge match. On one side, Rick Prime, the original bastard who murdered C-137's wife and set him on his path of vengeance. On the other side, our Rick, finally done holding back, intellect dialed to infinity, emotional chains off. The battlefield everywhere, everywhen. We're talking a kaleidoscopic anime-lit showdown across time and space. In my mind, it starts with Rick chugging a flask of that special mega seed juice. You know, the stuff that supercharged Morty's brain for 5 hours in the pilot. Boom! His eyes glow with the knowledge of a million timelines. In a flash, Rick outmaneuvers Rick Prime's every attack before it's even launched. Laser blast? Rick opens a portal and sends them ricocheting through time, so they strike Rick Prime from yesterday. Rick Prime summons an army of evil Ricks. C-137 snaps his fingers and hacks their portal collars, teleporting the whole army into an endless fart dimension. Enjoy eternity, boys. The fight would be like Dragon Ball Z meets Rick and Morty insanity. Think giant mecha Ricks, reality-bending gadgets, existential banter as punches. At one point, Rick Prime might rip open a raw hole in time to erase C-137 from ever existing, and our Rick responds by literally duct taping the timeline back together. Knowing Rick, he's got temporal duct tape in that lab coat for just such an occasion. You call that a tear in reality. That's not a tear. This is a tear. Wubba lubba boom physics. Final stage. Rick unleashes the infinitely big brain. Maybe he merges with the central finite curve itself, absorbing knowledge from all Ricks everywhere. He becomes a glowing, godlike figure. Not just the smartest man in the universe, but in all universes. Faced with infinity brain Rick Prime never stood a chance. In the climactic moment, C-137 executes the ultimate outplay, a move so crazily smart, so meta, that it literally overwrites Rick Prime's existence. Picture Rick trapping his nemesis in a false reality, a personalized hell of continuous Jerry daycare perhaps. A prison dimension with no escape. Rick Prime gets portal dumped into a narrative dead end. Checkmate, baby. Our Rick stands victorious amid the cosmic rubble, takes one last triumphant swig of his flask as the torn fabric of reality knits itself behind him, and maybe burps out a one-liner for the ages. And that's why you don't mess with the Rick. Burp. Morty, hiding behind a shattered asteroid, peeks out, trembling. Is it over, Rick? Rick, lighting a cigarette with a smoldering timeline fragment. Over? Morty, it hasn't even begun, not until I get my Szechuan sauce. Classic. The multiverse is saved, or at least under new management, and Rick Sanchez at 100% power reigns supreme, however briefly. It's terrifying, it's awe-inspiring, and it's damn near inevitable. Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that Rick always finds a way to win, eventually. So how strong is Rick Sanchez really? The man's a one-person apocalypse, a demigod with a drinking problem, a genius monkey wrench in the gears of reality. At 1%, he's dangerous. At 100%, he's inevitable. The only question is, what happens after 100%? But that, my friends, is a story for another time. In the meanwhile, remember, Rick's not just the smartest man in the universe, he's also the craziest one holding it together by a thread. And if you think you can ignore him, well, subscribe or get portal dumped to a vat of acid timeline. Your call, Jerry.